It was his last Nagar Sankirtan in Navadvip. So in the evening he came home and he was dressed beautifully in garlands, chewing betel, tambu, with sandalwood paste. And he approached Vishnu Priya. And though he was usually pretty much not paying attention to her, he took her by the hand and he sat her down on the bed. With his own hands he gave her a garland, decorated her hair with flowers, and decorated her with sandalwood paste. And gave her also tambu. She was thinking, ordinarily, it would be a cause of great joy for a wife if a husband would treat her in this way. But after experiencing the omens, the ill omens during the day, she was thinking, what is he doing? This is exactly like an oil lamp. When an oil lamp is burning, just before it runs out of oil and goes out, it goes it burns brighter for a moment and then disappears. So she thought, oh, he's showing so much love for me just for this moment. Perhaps this is the end. She could not sleep at night. But anyway, Prauda Maya, the Yoga Maya of Navadvip Dham, came with 100 kilos on each eyelid and made her eyes closed, and she fell asleep. And in the night, but towards the end of night, Nimai Pandit got up and came out from the door into the courtyard. And you know, mothers, they have some telepathic connection with their children. Sachimata knew what was. She felt it. And when he came into the courtyard, Sachimata was standing there, like a statue. Nimai Pandit, with folded hands, did parikrama 4 times around his mother. And Dandavat Pranam. And then he was gone. He jumped into the Ganges, crying, Krishna, 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 and swam across to Kantak Nagari. Kantak Nagari, that is Tattva. We call it Kantak Nagari. That place is like a thorn in the heart. And he threw all the residents of Navadvip into the ocean of separation. Alas, alas. From there he wanted to, after receiving sannyas, he wanted to go to Vrindavan, but Nityananda Prabhu tricked him and brought him back to Gaudamanda, to Shantipur, not so far away from Navadvip, to the house of Advaitacharya in Shantipur. And when the Navadvipasis heard, he's here, very close by, he's in Shantipur, then everyone ran there. They were all crossing the Ganga, they could not wait for the boats, they were jumping in the Ganga, there were so many of them you couldn't see the river, it was just like a river of heads. Everyone was going to see him. Young people, old people, lame people, even blind people were going to see him. Everyone went there. Advaitacharya sent a palanquin, bring Sachimata as the guest of honor on a palanquin. Everyone could go, but only one person could not go. Who?
Vishnu Priya.
Vishnu. We can't imagine. All of Navadvip are in separation, but now they can all go to see him, but only one person can. She was weeping so much. Sachimata herself, after Mahaprabhu then from there went to Jagannath Puri, Sachimata could have barely stayed alive in the absence of her son. But she was giving comfort to Vishnu Priya. Vishnu Priya was weeping in the arms of Sachimata. Just like Mahaprabhu said, Tanadapi Sunityana Torapi Sushnana. Be like a tree. A tree is being burned by the blazing sun, but at the same time, not caring for its own condition, giving shelter to others. Sachimata is like this. She had 8 children, and they all died shortly after birth. Then she had a son, Vishwarup, but he left home, took sannyas very young. Then her husband passed away. And then her second son also left. Everything in her life was a disaster. But she never blamed Krishna. So she's told a piece of more humble than a blade of grass. Kirtanya Sadhari. Always chanting the name of Krishna and tolerating everything. How glorious is Sachimata? When Krishna was a little baby and he smashed one pot in the kitchen, Mother Yashoda tied him up. Nimai Pandit, when he was a little child, he took a stick, he smashed every pot in the kitchen. But Sachimata did not tie him. So Mother Yashoda in the form of Sachimata is more merciful, more tolerant even. So if someone will address Mahaprabhu by the name Sachinanda, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, oh, that person, he, lifetime after lifetime, he will never leave my devotional service. All Vedic knowledge, all Vedanta, Puranas, Upanishads, all Harikatha will appear in his heart. That person who says Sachinandan, Sachinandan. That person who says Sri Sachi, I can never repay him in millions of births. I bow down to him even. I accept him as my guru. Only the person who says Sachi. This is Sachi. Sri Sachi.
Sri Sachi. Sri Sachi. Sri Sachi.
She's holding Vishnu Priya in her arms. Vishnu Priya Devi. In the morning, she's chanting Hare Krishna, taking rice, uncooked rice. And so you have to wash the rice before cooking. So she's bathing each grain of rice. She says one Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And remembering Gaur Hari. And she's washing the grain of rice in her tears and putting it on one side. And then another one. Until noon. And then whatever rice she has washed in her tears, she prepares and gives to Sachimata, and she offers that to Krishna. And then when Sachimata is eaten, she takes it. So how she was doing bhajan in separation. We pray to Vishnu Priya Devi that we can have such mamata, possessiveness, and deep attachment to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Vishnu Priya Devi ki jai, Vidhi Anubhav Titi Mahotsava ki jai. Now we come to the appearance day of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was born in a very wealthy Kayastha family. Technically the Kayasthas, they are Sudras, but they're very clever in business. So they became, very often, they were gold merchants and landholders. So his father's name was Govardhan Majumdar, and he was the landlord of Saptagram. Saptagram was a large area composed of Saptagram, 7 villages. And so he was like a king. He had a brother named Hiranya Majumdar. His brother had no son. So between the two of them, there was only one boy. So he was so much loved and spoiled by his father and his uncle. So in his childhood, we just discussed how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go, he received sannyas and then he wanted to go to Vrindavan, but Nityananda by trick brought him to Shantipur, and all the Navadvip Vasis went there to see him at that time. So at that time, Raghunath was about 14 years old. And he went there also. He was among those crowds that went there. But his guru is named Yadunandanacharya. And Yadunandanacharya was a very dear disciple of Advaitacharya. So because of this, when the young boy was there, Raghunath, then Advaitacharya showered so much mercy on him. Because Advaitacharya was his Param Gurudev. And he said, the grandfather is more merciful than the father. Really, it's true. I experienced so many times. My Gurudev is coming in the dreams of my disciples. Very, the grandfather, more merciful than the father. So in this way, Advaita Acharya, he gave so much mercy to the young Raghunath, and when Mahaprabhu took prasadam there, he took and gave from the plate of Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu's remnants. So then, when Raghunath went back to his home, he was no longer interested in being a prince. He was not interested in the world, he was not interested in the opulence, the power, position, prestige of his family, royal family. He was very detached. And he just wanted to run away and leave everything and go to Jagannath Puri and be with Mahaprabhu. So he was running away several times. But his father's security battalion, they tracked him down, they caught him and brought him back. So then his parents decided, let's arrange his marriage. So they looked everywhere and they found a woman who was like Miss Universe. And he was married to her. They thought, okay, this is. But still he wanted to run away. So then, when Mahaprabhu was in Puri for some time, he toured South India, and then after some years he tried to go to Vrindavan. The second time he was successful, but the first time he wasn't successful. He only got as far as Kanainatsala, and from there he turned back. So that time during his first attempt to go to Vrindavan, Mahaprabhu again came to Shantipur, and Raghunath Das went to see him. So when he approached Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu knew everything about his life. He's the Supreme Lord. And he said to Raghunath, Stirahao gari jao na bahu batu krami krami pai babaloka sinduko. The meaning is, make your mind steady. Stirahai gari jao, and go back to your home. Na ho batu, don't become crazy. A crazy fellow. Krami krami pai babaloka sinduko. You can cross over the ocean of material existence, but you have to go step by step. Markata vairagya na karo, loka dekaiya, yata yogya vishay bunja anasakta hai. Don't make a show of renunciation. Markat vairagya. That means monkey renunciation. You know, monkeys are sannyasis. They don't have any clothes, they live in the forest, they don't have any fixed address, just one tree to another tree. But actually all the time they're thinking about sense gratification. If anyone walks past on their way back from the marketplace with their fruits, what will happen? Anyone who's been to Vrindavan knows. They will jump on you and take your fruit. And they're looking for so many female monkeys all the time. So he said, don't make a show of renunciation like a monkey, but rather you can enjoy the things of this world in a dharmic way, in an appropriate way. Anasakta, but don't be attached to them. Antarikorinista bhaya lokya bhavaha achirati Krishna tomai koribe oda. Internally you should cultivate nishta, firm, steady faith, and remembrance of Sri Krishna. But outwardly, just play a role like an ordinary person. And if you'll do this, then when your heart becomes steady, your faith is strong inside, then very soon Krishna himself will deliver you from all obstacles. So he was somewhat pacified. And then he went. He returned to his home. But he never went inside the home. He used to sleep in the Durga Mandap, just outside. He didn't want to have his opulent bed, palatial room. His mother was very worried about him. He said to the husband, he's going to run away again. We should try to tie him up somehow to stop him from leaving. Husband said, look, we have already applied a living chain. Who is that?
Wife.
And he's beautiful. We've already tried to tie him by a living chain. If a living chain cannot hold him, what will a dead chain do? Nothing. I think that someone who's become mad by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu No one can control him. So his father was starting to become resigned to the fate. After some time, Nityananda Prabhu came nearby to the village called Panihati. And Raghunath Das begged his father, please let me go there and have the darshan of Nityananda Prabhu. His father said, all right, but you should go with some my servants accompanying you. That means his security detail would go with him to make sure that he came back. So Raghunath Das set off. And there Nityananda Prabhu was on the bank of the Ganges in Panihati. Who's been there? Have you been to Panihati? Yeah. So Nityananda Prabhu was like a moon surrounded by the stars of all of his associates. And when Raghunath Das approached and he gave pranam, then Nityananda Prabhu got up and said, hey, you come here, and was trying to catch him. And he quickly took large paces and with his long arms he caught. He said, you're a thief and now I've caught you. Nityananda Prabhu said, you're a thief and now I've caught you. The meaning is this: you are trying to take my property without my permission. The lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are my property and you're trying to take them without permission. Not possible. Nityananda Prabhu is Akhanda Guru Tattva. Without Guru Kripa, no one can overcome the obstacles of this material world. Jiva is very tiny, very weak, his integrity is very fragile and can be compromised at any moment by Maya. So Nityananda Prabhu said, you are a thief, so you should be punished. And the punishment is, you have to pay a fine of feeding all the Vaishnavas a feast of Dari Chira. That means flat rice and yogurt. So then Raghunath Das Goswami was very happy. And the servants that were with him, he told them, oh, take money, go to the marketplace and buy so much yogurt, bananas, sugar, black pepper, elaichi, cardamom, and chip rice. Mix it together with condensed milk in so many different pots. And in this way they prepared a very wonderful feast, fit for the Gwalbal, fit for cowherd boys, because Nityananda Prabhu's Dwadasha Gopals, his main associates, they're all cowherd boys in Krishna Lila. So they're not so bothered about, fancy preparations, just flat rice and yogurt mixed together, put some condensed milk. Great. Picnic. So then everyone sat down in rows, and Raghunath Das Goswami along with his servants, they were feeding all the Vaishnavas. Nityananda was sitting down in meditation and calling, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And there and then, though no one could see it, only Raghunath Das could see it. He looked and saw that though Mahaprabhu was currently in Puri, he manifested there. And he was dancing with Nityananda Prabhu. And as the Vaishnavas were taking prasadam, Gaur and Thai were dancing in between them. And only Raghunath Das Goswami could see it. And part of their dance move was to take some remnant from the plate of a devotee. And then dance, and one of them go. And they were feeding each other the remnants of their devotees. And Raghunath, without the mercy of Akhanda Guru Tattva, no one can attain Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha Krishna. But without serving all the Vaishnavas, one cannot get the mercy of Akhanda Guru Tattva. So Srila Nityananda Prabhu had engaged him in this way. He had served and respected all the Vaishnavas. Very beautiful. Just like I am sitting here having a beautiful darshan personally. I see devotees from ISKCON, from Gaudiya Math, from the Sangha of Tripurari Maharaj, from no Sangha at all. There's people from here all together, all the Vaishnavas. It's beautiful. So Raghunath Das Goswami realized, by serving all the Vaishnavas, Nityananda Prabhu is pleased. And when Nityananda Prabhu is pleased, then I can be successful. So he begged Nityananda Prabhu. He said, oh Nitai, Nityananda Prabhu, I am like a dwarf who wants to touch the moon. Actually, even a very tall person can't touch the moon, but if a dwarf is jumping up and down, it's particularly pathetic. So I'm like that. Without your mercy, it's not possible for me to attain the shelter of Mahaprabhu. So then Nityananda, he gave pranam to Nityananda, and Nityananda put his lotus feet on the head of Raghunath Das. Nityananda Prabhu ki Paritpavana Parvataya Premadat Padmavati Kumar Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai. And then Nityananda Prabhu blessed him. He said, now all your obstacles will be removed. Very soon, you will go to Jagannath Puri, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he will give your hand in the hand of Swarup Damodar Goswami. So Nityananda gave this blessing. So then Raghunath, he returned to his home, and then one night he was sleeping outside in the Durga Mandapa, and his guru Yadunandanacharya approached there in the evening. He said, "Oh Raghunath, my pujari, who is doing service in my temple, he's given up his service. I want you to go to his house and persuade him to take up the service again." Because he was very like junior devotee, neophyte, Konishta, who was doing the deity service. So he would have more faith in a prince, in a wealthy person. He would listen to him. Say, go on, talk. So Raghunath got up and he left with his guru. And because he was leaving with his guru, no one suspected anything. So he went out, and on the way he said, "Oh Gurudev, don't be worried about this situation. You can return to your bhajan kutir. I'll go to the house of that person and solve the problem. You should not be troubled by this." So then his guru went home. Raghunath Das spoke to that person and sent him. Then he thought, now I'm out at the house, alone, no one knows where I am. This is my chance. This is the blessing of Nityananda Prabhu. So then he ran and ran as fast as he could south. He didn't go on the main road, he didn't even go on the village roads, because he knew the men would come looking for him. He went through the jungle, through the forest, running for days. It's a journey that takes 1 month, but he completed it in 12 days. He only stopped to eat and beg a little milk from a goshala along the way, 3 or 4 times. And so when he arrived in Jagannath Puri, he was lean and thin. He was so emaciated, he was so tired, bedraggled when he arrived there. And he didn't go to the Jagannath temple. He went straight to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu was sitting with Swarup Damodar, Rai Ramananda and other associates. And from far away, Raghunath says, now I've arrived. And he fell to the ground giving Dandavat Pranam. Mukunda Dutt told Mahaprabhu, oh, Raghunath is there. And Mahaprabhu got up and ran to him and picked him up and embraced him. In that pitiful state, Mahaprabhu tightly embraced him. You should think here that Mahaprabhu is absorbed in Radha Bhav. He has the Abhiman, I am Radha. And who is this? Ratimanjari has come. At this point, Raghunath Das has not come to that level of realization quite yet. But anyway, Radhika is united with her Dasi. So Mahaprabhu is lovingly embracing him. And he said, oh, Krishna is very merciful to you. He has taken you out of the ditch of stool. Your father and uncle, they are Vaishnava pride. That means outwardly they dress like Vaishnavas, they make some programs and everything. But really their heart is not into it. They're interested in money, they're interested in power, they're interested in their estate. That's their main thing. And they do some devotion on the side and try to support Brahminical culture. So they're not Vaishnavas, they're Vaishnava pride. So because actually Mahaprabhu's maternal grandfather, Nilambar Chakravarti, was close friends with them. So you can joke with your parents. In Vedic culture, you should be very respectful to your father, but you can crack jokes with your grandfather. So Mahaprabhu jokingly said, oh, your father and uncle, they're like worms in stool. They think that the Vishai, the sense gratification of this world is pleasurable. but actually it's a poison for the soul. And Krishna is so merciful, he has delivered you. There's nothing more powerful than Krishna's mercy. Raghunath Das said, "Oh Mahaprabhu, I don't know anything about Krishna, I only know you." So Mahaprabhu took the hand of Raghunath Das and the hand of Swarup Damodar Goswami, and he placed Raghunath Das Goswami's hand in the hand of Swarup Damodar, and he said, "Now I have 3 Raghunaths among my associates. Vaidya Raghunath, Raghunath Bhatta, who was also there at that time, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami." He said, "So from today you will be known as Swarupa Raghu. You are Swarup's Raghu. You should be under his guidance. Learn from him. He knows more than me." Why? Because Mahaprabhu is absorbed in Radha Bhav and Swarup Damodar is Lalita Sakhi. So Lalita Sakhi is a Pragalpa, she's a bit older than Radhika and she's Pragalpa, very bold. 27 days older. It's a long time in spiritual world. So she's more mature, more clever. She can see through Krishna. When Radhika is a bit too naive to see through Krishna's lies, then Lalita will detect the fault in his alibi. So Mahaprabhu says, "Oh, you learn from Swarup Damodar. He knows more than you." So then Raghunath started to live there in Puri under the guidance of Swarup Damodar Goswami. He used to come every day and take prasadam with Mahaprabhu, but then he stopped coming. Mahaprabhu said, "Why does he not come anymore?" So Damodar Goswami said, "Oh, he sits outside the Jagannath temple and he's just begging something there." Mahaprabhu was pleased. "Oh, he's just see. Though he's from a wealthy family, he's very renounced." After some time, he stopped begging there also. So Damodar Goswami told Mahaprabhu he's not begging there anymore. He just goes to the charity booth. There's a charity booth inside the Jagannath temple. You can stand up in a certain time every day to give something. Mahaprabhu said, "Yes, yes." Because the begging from the public as they're going past, this is like being a prostitute, looking for a client. So this is much better. Because the duty of a renounced person is just to chant, "Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." Sham, sham. So then, the father of Raghunath Das Goswami sent some money with a Brahmin. But Raghunath Das didn't want to take this money. So he used this money to get Mahaprasadam and arrange for a feast for Mahaprabhu and his associates twice every month. And he did this for some years. But after some time he stopped doing that also. Mahaprabhu said, "Oh, Swarup Damodar, why is Raghunath not inviting us anymore?" So Damodar Goswami said, he realized that because his father, his family, they're not really devotees. So accepting money from them is not favorable for bhakti. It only makes disturbance of the mind, entanglement. So he thought that you're only accepting this out of kindness to him, but really you're not pleased by it. Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He said, "Vishair anakaila malin hoy man, malin manin hoy nahi Krishna rasmaran." By taking the food grains which are being supplied by a Vishai, a person who is engaged in sense gratification, the mind becomes polluted. And with a contaminated mind, nahi Krishna smaran, it's impossible to remember Shri Krishna. So this is very important. People think, "Oh yes, yes, I'm doing Lila Smarana." Only remembering some words that you read in a book or heard from someone is not Lila Smarana. Lila Smarana is something that takes place after you have realized in your heart the beautiful form and qualities and associates of Krishna. Then the Lila appears. Lila hoiti nama sproti rupanuga balin na. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, there is a gradual krama, a sequence of realization. So a spurti, the appearance of Krishna Nam, will not arise from the remembrance of Krishna Leela. It's because it's all backwards. So Leela Vaite Nama Spurti Rupanuga Bolena. A pure Rupa Nuga Vaishnava will never say that you have a realization of Krishna's Naam by coming from trying to remember his Leela. Because the sequence, the kram is, there's Vyutpat kram. This is out of sequence. So, Leela Smaranam is a very high stage, and without the heart being pure, it is not possible. So, Mahaprabhu said this. Then Raghunath, he stopped taking food from the charji booth. And he was just going, and where the rice was washing out from the drains of the kitchen of Lord Jagannath, and the cows were coming and eating it. Then some of the rice became old and the cows would even eat. He would take that, wash it, clean it, give a little salt, and then, before eating, he would criticize himself. Atmanam chat vijaniyam param jnana dautashaya. It's a verse from the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh my Lord, if my heart is really being cleansed by transcendental knowledge, and I realize that I am not this body, then why am I eating this food and nourishing this body like a lumpak, like a debauchee, and criticizing himself for still having his soul having some connection with this physical world? And then he would take that. So when Mahaprabhu heard this, he was amazed. Chaitanya Bhakta Gana Vairagya Pradhan Jahan Hoya Prita Maya Gaura Bhagavan Jahan Deki Prita Hoya Gaura Bhagavan. It is said that one thing is very prominent among the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his devotees, and that is Vairagya. Due to their intense love for Krishna, they have no interest in anything in this material plane. Yet they may use the things of this plane in Krishna's service, but never for themselves. So when Mahaprabhu heard this, he went there to that place, you know, where the Jagannath temple is, the main gate. Then you go along to the left and then around the corner, and that's where the rice washes out from the drains of the kitchen of Lord Jagannath. So Mahaprabhu went there. Those sweet Thailand cows are there, you know, miniature cows. So Mahaprabhu went there and he saw Raghunath Das. He was about to eat. And Mahaprabhu came and he snatched the food from Raghunath Das's hand. He said, "What is this? You're having a feast and you didn't even invite me." And then he went to take some more. But Swarup Damodar came, Swarup Damodar Goswami caught the hand of Mahaprabhu. That's enough. Mahaprabhu said, "Every day I'm taking very delicious Jagannath Mahaprasada, but I've never tasted anything this sweet." So in this way, there was very glorious time in Jagannath Puri, the golden days. Because at night time, Mahaprabhu would meet in the Gambhira with Swarup Damodar Goswami and Rai Ramananda, and he would become lost in Radhika's bhav, as if Radharani, in separation from Krishna, is speaking with her two Sakhis, Lalita and Vishaka. And then at the end of the night, Swarup Damodar Goswami used to come from Kashi Mishra Bhavan, where the Gambhir was, and return to his ashram in Satasan, in Tila, where Raghunath Das was waiting for him. So just like a calf in the morning, when the mother cow is coming, then the calf is pulling on the rope, very eager to get the milk. So Raghunath Das was like that in the morning, waiting for Swarup Damodar Goswami to come back from the Gambhira with fresh news of Gaura Leela. What did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? What did he sing? What moves did he relish that evening? And Swarup Damodar Goswami would come and give fresh delivery. He would sit down with Raghunath Das and, "Oh, tell me." And he would get directly, hear everything from the Gambhira, news from the Gambhira. And they would discuss for hours. They forgot to put on their tilak, they forgot to remember their morning Gayatri, they forgot to take bath in the ocean. You should follow these things strictly. But if you're there waiting for Swarup Damodar to come straight from the Gambhira, don't worry so much about those things. Otherwise you should follow very strictly. So these were the glorious days. Raghunath Das, he would never speak to Mahaprabhu directly. He was so humble. He would always speak through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So one day Swarup Damodar said, "Oh Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Das wants to present this question at your lotus feet. I have left everything, but for what reason? What is my real duty? Mahaprabhu said, oh Raghunath, actually Swarup Damodar Goswami, he knows better than me, more than me. All of these things. But if you insist that you want to hear some instruction from me, then I tell you this. Gramya Gata Nashanibe, Gramya Vartana Kohibe, Baluna Paribe, Ara Baluna Kahibe. Don't speak about mundane things. And don't listen to mundane news, mundane talk. Don't wear very fancy, expensive clothing. And don't eat very delicious food. Because if you eat like a king, then you start looking for a queen. Then Mahaprabhu said, Amani namanadahiya sada avoid of false prestige and give respect to every living entity and constantly chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And when you are chanting in the core of your heart, Braja Radha Krishna Seva Manasa Kuribe, you should serve Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So Raghunath Das Goswami, his heart was pure and smaran. By the power of Kirtan, this smaran was awakening in his heart. But shortly, after a short time, he was there now in Puri fully about 12 years. But then, in 1533, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared from this world. In the following Rath Yatra day, Swarup Damodar Goswami could not tolerate Rath Yatra without Mahaprabhu. He also disappeared. Gadadhar Pandit disappeared. And now Raghunath Das was alone in Puri. He could not tolerate it. Every dust of Puri was reminding him of the love and affection of Swarup Damodar Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could not tolerate it. Previously, one sannyasi named Shankarananda Saraswati had sent a Govardhan Shila and a garland of gunja berries. They're red with the black spot. To Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu used to worship this Govardhan Shila, hold it on his head while he was chanting, hold it on his heart, touch it to his eyes and bathe it in his tears. For about 3 years. And one day, Mahaprabhu gave this Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Swami and the Gunjaman. From this, Raghunath Das Swami thought, oh, by giving me this Govardhan Shila, Mahaprabhu has given me a place. This is my place of seva, my seva's thali. And by offering me this Gunjamala, he has offered me as the dasi of Radhika. In his heart, he understood the meaning of this gesture. So when Mahaprabhu disappeared, then Raghunath Das Goswami thought, oh, I cannot stay alive. But because Mahaprabhu has given me to Govardhan, he never thought Mahaprabhu was given Govardhan to me. He thought Mahaprabhu was given me to Govardhan. Therefore, Govardhan must accept me. I'll go to Vrindavan and I'll jump from the top of Govardhan and give up my life. And Govardhan will give me mercy. So then with a broken heart, Raghunath Das set out from Jagannath Puri and walked nearly 2,000 kilometers to Vrindavan. And before giving up his life, he went to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and gave pranams to them. Sanatana Goswami looked at him and he could see himself in Raghunath Das. Because previously Sanatana Goswami had drunk some contaminated water and had a skin disease, and his body was covered in sores and oozing blood and pus. But Mahaprabhu used to embrace him, and then the blood and the pus from his body would go in the body of Mahaprabhu. And Sanatana Goswami was thinking, this is terrible, I should just give up this sinful body. But Mahaprabhu told him, hey, you don't even know the basic principles of Dharma. What's the first principle of Dharma? You don't destroy someone else's property. Your body is mine. It belongs to me, not you. You cannot destroy it. And I have many missions I want to fulfill through that body. Don't think, never think. Vaishnava never thinks this body is mine. This body belongs to Guru and Gauranga. Let it only be an instrument in their seva. So Mahaprabhu said, look, if you could attain Krishna praying by killing yourself, I would kill myself thousands of times every day. But it's not possible. One has to do sadhana. So Sanatana Goswami, when he saw the young Raghunath Das, he could read his mind. And he saw himself. And he told him, no. You cannot attain Krishna praying by giving up your life. Though the devotee who feels frustrated in his attempt to attain Krishna, then he may feel that he should give up his life, but you should not do it. So I'll give you a place you should stay at, on the bank of Radhakund. So Sanatana Goswami Pad gave him a place there, and he was nourished by the instructions of Sanatana Goswami, and especially Rupa Goswami. You know that one day Rupa Goswami gave Raghunath Das his play, Lalit Madhav. Lalit Madhav is a very heartbreaking story. How Krishna leaves Vrindavan and goes to Mathura. How Radhika, in the madness of love, jumps into the Jamuna and he's never seen again. Everyone thinks he has committed suicide. But how Radhika is carried by the Jamuna to Jamuna Devi's father, the sun god. And then the sun god gives her in charity to Shatrajit. And then Radhika comes and meets with Krishna in Nava Vrindavan, in a replica of Vrindavan, which has been made by Vishwakarma to soothe Sri Krishna's separation when he's in Dwarka. It's a very pathetic story, but the ending is Madhurena Samarpayat, very sweet, beautiful. But Raghunath Das Goswami was reading this and he was dying. He was rolling on the ground and crying. He didn't eat anything for days. The Vaishnavas thought he will pass away. Rupa Goswami, do something. So then Rupa Goswami wrote the Dankali Comedy. It's a beautiful poetic drama about Radha and Krishna's quarreling over tax. Krishna was demanding a tax from Radhika to pass on the path of Govardhan. It's very funny. So the comedy, this Dankali Comedy is also a comedy. It's full of Sringarasa, romantic mood, and Hasirasa also. The mood of comedy, humor. So Raghunath Das, Rupa Goswami came to Raghunath Das and said, oh, give me that. And he was, oh. He said, well, I've written another one here. Oh, really? Okay, so then they swapped. And then when Raghunath Das was reading Dankali Comedy, he became full of joy and he was laughing. And in this way, Rupa Goswami saved the life of Raghunath Das Goswami. Gradually time went by. Sanatana Goswami left this world. And also then Rupa Goswami left this world. And now Raghunath Das was very old. At that time, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami was somewhat younger. And Raghunath Das was telling him, Krishna Das Kaviraj, what it was like to be with Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And telling him the news that we receive each day from the Gambhira. And hearing directly from an eyewitness, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami wrote it down and it became Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is not a fictional work. It is not a creative poetry. It is directly written down from the eyewitness, direct eyewitness accounts, heard directly from the eyewitness. So Raghunath Das Goswami was speaking 3 hours a day, Gaura Katha, and it became Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was chanting all the time and crying, writing poems, beautiful poems that became Stavavali and the Dankali Chintamani and the Mukta Charita. The literatures of Raghunath Das Goswami are incomparable. Gradually his separation from Srimati Radhika increased more and more, and he wrote Vilap Kusumanjali. It is very profound, very grave. Now Raghunath Das, he is just chanting and meditating 20 2.5 hours a day. And for 1.5 hours he takes rest, but in his dreams he sees Srimati Radhika. He's sometimes in Bahya Dasha, outer consciousness. Sometimes in Antardasha, inner consciousness. That's when he forgets this world completely and he's situated in his Swarupas, Rati Manjari, and experiences directly serving Radhika. And sometimes that spurti, that vision disappears and he's half there and half in that world and half in this world. Then he weeps because he thought, I'm there. And now he says, I'm not, and I'm losing everything. And then when he comes into external consciousness, he's rolling on the ground. Malin Vasadiya Gaya Radhe Radhe, his cloth is covered in dust. Bosinayane Rajali Radhe, he's bathed in the ocean of his own tears. Dekadiya Prana Rakit Radhe, oh Radhika, please give me your darshan and save my life. Tomar Kangal, Tomadaki, I am a beggar, calling out to you. Parama Karuna Moye Radhe Radhe. Brinda Bonabilasini Radhe Radhe. Astasaka Shiromani Radhe Radhe. Kanumana Mohini Radhe Radhe. So when he would come into external consciousness, then his bhavs, very mercifully, he has written them down. Amritabdi Rasa Prayais Tavanu Puru Sinjitaha Akadama Makalyani Bhariryamanu Pasyate. Pranalin Kilala Bahubira Visangshalya Madura Bodhasamma Jasya Vivritika Chabrinda Priyataya Kathavaya Garam Baram Parlimandu Panivaha Vidasite Devi Pratidina Mahova Sitamaham. He sees, I am Ratimanji. It's morning time. Radhika has come back just in time to not get caught by any relatives. And she's sleeping. Still sleeping. But no sleep for her manjaris, the maidservants. Mukara, her grandmother, is coming in the early morning. So, oh, where's my granddaughter? Why is she still sleeping? And she, without any hesitation, she comes into the room. Oh, Natri, oh, Natri. Oh, my daughter, my granddaughter, my dear granddaughter. Why are you still sleeping? So grandmother comes and wakes up in the morning. Then, oh, Shamala Saki, one of the friends of Radhika, arrives to talk to her. Shamala hasn't gone to take her bath yet, but she's coming to see Radhika. Why? Because she wants to take bath in the river of Krishna Katha. To hear, oh Radhika. She wants to know what Radhika did the previous night. She'll not say openly, she'll just come. Radhika sees Shamala. Oh, Shamala. Today perhaps I will attain my good fortune because I've seen you, you are so auspicious. Perhaps the tree of my good fortune will bear fruit. Shamala Saki said, oh, I think that you have, what to speak of the tree bearing fruit, you have already been relishing so much of that fruit. I can see the juice. Some of the chandan and cosmetics from Sri Krishna are still smeared on the body of Radhika. She said, oh, if one tastes the fruit, the first bite of the fruit is sometimes a bit bitter and it can give a sore on the lip. So I can see you have been tasting so much fruit. That is the implication that Krishna bit, very gently bit the lip of Radhika. Radhika said, no. I have not tasted a single drop. Shamala said, oh, this fruit is so amazing that even though you drink so much of this juice, at the end you feel you have not tasted anything. Because the anurag of Radhika is so intense. Shamala said, tell me, I've come here to hear from you. What happened? What happened? Radhika said, oh, I admit, yes, I met with him. But just as in the night, if there's a flash of lightning, after the lightning it's even darker than before. So in the same way, it seems that I saw him just for a split second. But now the darkness of separation is worse than before. What can I do? Shamala Saki, tell me, what happened? What he said? I don't remember anything. I just remember my Sakis were taking me somewhere, and when I got there, then I saw millions of cupids were dancing on the stage. I cannot express it. So then, after speaking in this way, Shamala, she went on her way. In the meantime, the maidservants, they're preparing everything for Radhika's bathing. So Pranali Kilalaba Hubi Ravi Sancha. When will the day come when Radhika is having beautiful rasalap with Shamala? I'll quickly go about my service. I'll go to the bathroom and pour fragrant water everywhere, and then wipe it. And then seeing that even the drains, the pranali, the channels through which the water washes out, there's some smear there. I'll undo the braid of my hair and dry the drains with my own hair. And then light incense there and make it all fragrant, because just now Radhika will come for her morning cleansing. When will that be? So in this way, Raghunath Das Goswami is constantly absorbed in Radhika's seva from morning to night. Ampritam Diyasa Prayas Tavanu Puru Sinjitaha Akadama Makalyani Badiryam Apanasate. When will that day come? When Radha and Krishna are dancing together in the Rasa Lila. Krishna's flute is so beautiful. Smita Kiran Sukarpure Paisi Adara Madare Shri Madhu Matai Tribubane Vansi Chira Akase Tara Shabdi Guna Shabdi Paise Tara Rupe Payu Pariname. Krishna's body is sweet, but his body is like the empire of sweetness ruled over by the emperor of his smile. His face is like the throne of the emperor, and the emperor of his smile is sitting there. And when he smiles, then when Krishna smiles, the sweetness of his lips is mixed with the camphor of his shining of his beautiful teeth. And that is so sweet, the entire universe becomes intoxicated. And then when he takes his flute and puts his flute to his lips, then all the sweetness of Krishna's body and his face and his smile, which have collected in his lips, enters into the hole of the flute, mixes with the akash there, and then comes out, Dwani Rupapaya Parinam, in the form of sound. And when the sound of Krishna's flute, which is transmitting his sweetness everywhere, it maddens the whole universe. Yad gold vijadruma mrigapulaganta viparan. Even trees that don't move, now they burst into flowers and fruit, and their branches bow down. They weep tears in the form of honey from their honeycombs. Birds, which are restless and always moving, sit still like sages in trance, listening to the sound of his flute. The deer give up their shyness and approach him. In this way, Krishna's flute has such an effect that it reverses the dharma, the nature of all things, including the chaste gopis of Braja, who are very dharmic. They leave all dharma to meet with him. So just as the sound of Sri Krishna's flute is so beautiful and attracts all living entities to him, in the same way, the tinkling of Radhika's ankle bell has the same effect, attracting Krishna to him. Aneka mantranada manjunu pura ravaskalat samaja raja hansavat sanikranati gauravi. The tinkling of the ankle bells of Radhika is like the warbling of swans who are intoxicated, swimming in a lake of love. It is not only one sound, but according to her bhav, then her ankle bells jingle in a melody, expressing her Mahabhav. So when Sri Krishna is playing his flute and Radhika's dancing to and her ankle bells are accompanying the singing of his flute, then the mixture of those two sounds charms the whole world. It is incomparable. So one day, Radhika was dancing, and in the quickness of her dance, she's moving, Paranyasa Bhujab Bhutide, Sasvita Bhu Vilasa, Bhajanman Jais Chalkutu Patayi, Kundala Gandalole, Sudyamritya Kabarasana, Grantaya Krishnavadyo, Gayantastam Tadita Ivata Mega Chakre Virejuhu. She's dancing very quickly, moving her hips, and her waist is so narrow it looks like it will break. She's spinning around, her veil looks like a flag. The perspiration is appearing on her face. And she's wearing a beautiful ornament of pearls. And when the pearls of her perspiration appear there, then the pearls in her ornament become embarrassed. We're not so beautiful like the pearls of her perspiration. And when she spins around, then the drops of the pearls of perspiration spray out from the tips of her hair, which is, her braid has come undone from her very energetic dancing. How beautiful she looks. And as she's moving, then the ankle bell, the string on the ankle bell broke and fell to the ground. And so she's dancing, but now the sound is not coming. So then Rati Manjari, that is Raghunath Das Goswami, in his Swarupas, Rati Manjari, she quickly runs there, picks up the bells, and then ties them to the ankle of Radhika. But then just as Rati Manjari is tying the ankle bells back on the ankle of Radhika, then that vision disappeared. And now Raghunath Das Goswami is weeping. Amritavdi Rasa Praya is Tavanupuras. Oh Kalyani, oh Radhika, you are Kalyani. That means you make everything auspicious. Especially you make Krishna auspicious. Because without Radhika, Krishna feels there's no auspiciousness in his life. Oh Kalyani, please give me a drop of that auspiciousness, that I may serve you. When will I again hear the sweet sound, though Krishna's flute intoxicates and maddens and charms, attracts the entire universe, the sound of your ankle bells attracts even him. When will I hear that sound again? When will that sound of your ankle bells remove my deafness? One should think, if I cannot see the beauty of Radha Krishna, Anupam Madhuri Johuri Amari Sham Samaki Paras Paramili Ki Jab Bihare Shri Brinda Banaki Kunjanamai. Oh Radhika, you're decorated with the Chandaka and Krishna with the peacock feather. Your lips are reddened from chewing tangbol. And you look so beautiful as your heads lean over and you glance towards each other from the corners of your eyes. No one can describe your unlimited beauty. If my eyes are not seeing this, I am blind. And if my ears are not hearing the sweet singing of the Nupur, the ankle bells of Radhika, I am deaf. Oh Kalyani, oh Devi, oh Sri Radhika, when will you cure my deafness by the sweet sound of your ankle bells? So in this way, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has manifested in this world the epitome of Rupanuga Bhajan. Rupa Goswami has given beautiful teachings, but Rupa Goswami is not Rupanuga. Who is Rupanuga? Raghunath Das Goswami. So we sing Rupa Raghunatha Pade Valibeya Kuti Kabe Hamabuja Bose Yugalapiri. When will I be very eager to follow in the footsteps of Raghunath Das Goswami, who is following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami? Only then will I be able to realize Jugala Priti, the beautiful love for Radha and Krishna Yugal, both of them. Their love for each other and love for them also. Jugala Priti. So we're very fortunate today to be observing the appearance day of our Prayojan Tattva Acharya Raghunath Das Goswami. Try as far as possible to follow his example in your life. As Srila Rupa Goswami Pada said, Tatnama Rupa Charitadi Sukiptananu Spritokramena Rasanamana Sinayodya. Chistan Praje Tadamuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayeta Kilapittupadesha Saram. The essence of all advice is that one should engage oneself 24 hours a day in very nicely hearing, chanting and remembering Krishna's Nam, Rup, Gun and Lila. One should take shelter of Brajamandal, reside in Braj, and be under the guidance of Anuragijan, one whose heart is deeply immersed in Anurag for Radha and Krishna. This is the essence of everything. So we can measure the success of our life in terms of to what degree we have fulfilled the description of perfection in this verse of Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction. So I am inviting everyone, please come now, very soon, for Navadvip Dham Parikrama, March the 3rd to March the 10th, and then from the 12th to the 24th Parikrama in Vrindavan. Forget everything and be in Braja and be absorbed in Sravanam Kirtanam, Radha Krishna Smaranam. So one more item is left for discussion. So that is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, his disappearance day. But I think that we have run out of time. It's very late for everyone. So just a few words I want to say. And tomorrow morning, after Mangalatik and Japa, we'll speak in more detail about the glories of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Really, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti is a Bina Prakash of Rupa Goswami. He's an expansion of Rupa Goswami. He appeared in this world to reveal the barbs of Rupa Goswami which were hidden in his poetry. So he is the Param Rasik, incomparably Rasik. Once he was at Radhakund and he was chanting and he was remembering, oh, Krishnadas Kaviraj, he has written, and Mahaprabhu explained in Sanatan Shiksha that the Swarup of Krishna is Kam Gayatri. And Kam Gayatri has 24.5 syllables. And each one of these syllables is some part of the Swarup of Krishna. Krishna's form is made of 24.5 moons. His face is a moon, his two cheeks are moons, the dot of sandalwood placed on his forehead is a moon, his forehead itself is a half moon, and his fingernails are 10 moons, dancing on his flute. And his toenails are 10 moons, dancing as he plays. So 24.5 moons are there in each of the 24.5 syllables of the Kam Gayatri. Vishnu Thakur was thinking, which one of the syllables in the Kam Gayatri is the half syllable? He studied the Harinamamrita Vyakaranam of Srila Jiva Goswami. He couldn't find, he only found 50 letters there. He couldn't find a half syllable. He studied other books on Sanskrit grammar and poetics. He couldn't find anywhere. And finally, he thought, if I cannot understand this mantra, then I'll never attain the perfection of my life and the service of Radha Krishna. So what's the use of living? And he was sitting on the bank of Radhakund at night and thinking that I should give up my life. Gradually, by the influence of Yoga Maya, he went into sleep. And in a dream, he saw Radharani. Srimati Radhika came and said, "Hey, Hari Vallabha." His whole life he was named Vishwanath Thakur, but in the end, then he received his name Hari Vallabha. Hey, Hari Vallabha, the answer to your question you will find in the book called the Varnagama Basvadi. And by this mantra you will realize me. Then he woke up from the dream. And he searched and found this book. And there he found one sutra where it is described that the syllable Ya, when it's followed by the syllable Vi, is considered to be a half syllable. And in this way, then he began to meditate on the calm Gayatri, and this mantra manifested. The beautiful form of Radha and Krishna and their sweet pastimes. During the time of Srila Vishwanath Thakur, Rupa Goswami's teachings were gradually being lost. And though Rupa Goswami taught about Parakiya Bhav, that Radha and Krishna are not married, Radhika is married to Abhimanyu, and Radha and Krishna have to meet secretly. But now everyone was speaking of Radha and Krishna, they live together in Nandagaon. So rather than the Parakiya Bhav, the teaching of Rupa Goswami, the Swakiya Bhav was being taught. So Swakiya Bhav is there in Golok, the planet Golok, but there's the outer aspect of the planet, the Bahirmandal, there is Swakiya. But inside that, there is the Antamandal of Golok, called Braj Gokul or Golokastita Vrindavana. And there is no opulence at all. Krishna is just like a human child, Naravat Lila. And the relationship is, in Braja, is Ujjwala Rasa. Jaya Jaya Ujjwala Rasa Sava Rasa Sa. Parakiya Bhava Johe Brajate Prachar. Parakiya mood. So, all were speaking this, but Srila Vishwanath Thakur, giving evidence from scripture and beautiful explanations of rasa, he proved the superiority of Parakiya Rasa. And then those others who were promoting Swakiya Rasa, they became angry with him, upset, their prestige was diminished by his presence. And they got together and made the plan to kill him. So they knew that every morning he was doing parikrama of Vrindavan. So they hid in some dense forest and they were waiting for him to come. So they were waiting. That someone gave a message, oh yes, he's just coming now. And he joined the group and they waited, but he didn't come. Only one very beautiful Sakhi, a beautiful young Manjari with some of her friends came and was picking flowers. So then one of them said, oh Lali, have you seen one Mahatma coming this way? One great soul? She said, no. But then seeing how beautiful she was, they were very intrigued. Overwhelmed with curiosity, said, oh, who are you? Where are you from? She said, I am a Dasya of Radhika. I have come here on her orders to pick flowers. Right now, she's staying at her mother-in-law's house in Yavat. Mother-in-law's house in Yavat. Not mother-in-law's house in Nandagaon. So just then, that beautiful Kishori disappeared. Just in front of their eyes disappeared, and they saw standing in front of them, Srila Vishwanath Thakur was there. Then they realized, oh, really what he has said, everything is completely true, and he is actually an eternal associate of Radha and Krishna. He knows. We are only just talking some theories. And they all fell at the feet of Vishwanath Thakur and became his disciples. So in this way, through his preaching, through his writing, and through this pastime, Srila Vishwanath Thakur established the pure Rupa Nuga Vichardhara, the current of the conception of Srila Rupa Goswami, of service to Radha and Krishna in their Parakiya Leela. So Srila Vishwanath Thakur ki jai, Srila Radha Goswami Pad ki jai, Ithai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. So we'll sing one kirtan and then Mahaprasad will be served. Jai Jai.
Jai.
For the pleasure of Radha and Krishna, everyone please come to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Krishna Nam Suna Hare Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki jai Bal Sanwari ki jai 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 Sri Radhe Meru Radha Ramana Giridhari Giridhari Shala Bhavari Meru Radha Ramana Giridhari Giridhari Shala Bhavari Meru
Radha Ramana Giridhari
Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Bhakti Parankesh Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mahavara Bhuvashi Gokshadas Maharaj ki jai. Satyam Goswami Satyam Thakur Bhakti Nor ki jai. Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Maharaj ki jai. Sri Rupanu Gauri Gurva ki jai. Jai Sri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Gopal Bhatta Dasrana Sar Goswami Pur ki jai. Prem Se Gos Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Brajamandala ki jai. Shri Katuranu Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Oban Bandam Navakasi Navadi Matodam ki jai. Sri Sri Radhakund Gopinath Madan Banju ki jai. Bantaraj Shiva Bhaktam ki jai. Tipuran Mangal Karisi Harinam Sankirtana ki jai. Ananda Gaur Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Saundara Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Vasant Panchami Mahamotsav ki jai. Shri Vishnu Priya Abhibhati Mahamotsav ki jai. Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Abhibhati Mahamotsav ki jai. Shri Vishnu Tirabhati Mahamotsav ki jai. Vareswara Sasmi Shabara Nandini Smati Radharani ki jai. Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindaye Tulasi Devya Priyaye Kesava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Pari Devi Sacha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaja Puritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. So just now Mahaprasad will be served. If there are any devotees who want to speak to me, discuss anything with personally, I know there's a list of devotees. So now, after every class, morning and evening, I can speak 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, as whatever is the group for family or disciple. Hare Krishna.